You ever have one of those days that starts out too quiet? The kind where something in the air feels off. That was the morning it all began. Not with a fight. Not with lipstick on a collar. Not even a late-night phone call. Just silence. The house was quiet. Too quiet for a Saturday with a 7-year-old in it. I came downstairs expecting the usual chaos, cereal spilled across the counter, cartoons turned up to 11, my wife humming off-key while making pancakes she insisted weren't burnt, just crispy. But there was none of that. Just the buzz of the refrigerator and a single sheet of paper stuck to it by a best dad ever magnet I bought myself after no one else did. I stepped closer. It was a drawing. Crayon on printer paper. Simple, childlike, but with a stab of detail that hit like a cold splash to the face. 3 figures. One labeled Mom. The other, Uncle Jake. And in the middle, a red heart connecting them. No, Dad. No me. Just 2 smiling stick figures holding hands, with a giant red heart floating above them like a cruel punchline in a child's joke. I stared at it, jaw tight, not even sure what emotion to choose first. Shock? Anger? Confusion? What I felt most of all was stillness. That heavy, loaded kind of stillness that tells you something's been going on beneath your nose, something you should have seen, but didn't. Because you were too busy working, trusting, believing. And the best part? My daughter had titled the drawing too. Scribbled in purple crayon at the top were 4 words. Mommy's New Happy Family. I stood there in that kitchen for a full 5 minutes, watching the fridge hum and pretending the paper might vanish if I stared long enough. Spoiler, it didn't. And neither did the truth. I heard footsteps behind me. Tiny ones. The kind that slap more than they step. My daughter, Ruby, slid into the kitchen with that gap-toothed grin of hers and a juice box clutched like a trophy. She saw me looking at the picture and beamed. I made that for Mommy, she said proudly. Uncle Jake says it's good to imagine good things. Did he now? I said, voice calm enough to scare me. She nodded. He said Daddy's always busy and Mommy deserves to smile. I felt my heart punch my ribs. But I didn't react. Not on the outside. I was still trying to understand what the inside was doing. Ruby, I said slowly, crouching beside her. Why didn't you draw Daddy? She shrugged, sipping her juice. Uncle Jake says Daddy's gonna be too busy to live with us soon. I blinked. Did Mommy say that? She shook her head. No. Mommy just cried when she saw the drawing. But Uncle Jake gave her a hug and said it was perfect. I smiled. Or at least, I think I did. I'd practiced that smile for years. The one that says, it's okay, even when it's not. But inside? Inside I was starting to sketch out a plan of my own. And mine wouldn't be in crayon. That picture stayed on the fridge for another 2 days. Not because I couldn't take it down. I could have ripped it off and tossed it into the trash like yesterday's leftovers. But I didn't. I wanted it there. I wanted Ashley, my wife of 9 years and self-proclaimed master of emotional balance, to see it every time she walked into that kitchen. I wanted to see what it did to her face. A wince? A smirk? Maybe just a flicker of guilt in her carefully rehearsed morning smile. But every time she saw it, she'd just tighten her ponytail, pat Ruby on the head, and pretend it was a joke. She's just being creative, she'd say, pouring coffee like nothing was on fire. You know how kids are. Oh yeah, I thought. I know how kids are. Honest. Unfiltered. Brutal little truth machines in light-up sneakers. I didn't say anything. Not yet. I was gathering data. Ashley's birthday was the next night. A Thursday. Normally, we'd do dinner as a family, maybe a little cake, some jokes about how she's still younger than me by 3 months. But this year, she insisted on going out with a few girls from work instead. I offered to make reservations, but she waved it off. You don't have to do anything, she said. You've been so busy. Just relax tonight. Relax. Now, there's a word that hasn't visited my nervous system in about 5 years. I nodded and let her go, watching her strut to the car in a dress I hadn't seen before, tight, red, and very not girls' night friendly. My instincts tapped me on the shoulder. Then they grabbed me by the collar and screamed, follow her. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I started small. I called her sister, Morgan. She and Ashley used to be glued at the hip. Hey, I said, trying to sound casual. You doing anything for Ash's birthday tonight? Morgan hesitated. I thought she was out with you. That was it. No follow-up. No, oops. Just cold confusion. I hung up and stared at the wall for a good minute, my ears ringing like someone had fired a shotgun in a library. I called the restaurant Ashley had mentioned earlier that week. Hi, I said, pretending I was her assistant. Just confirming a reservation under Ashley Langston? The hostess didn't even hesitate. No reservation under that name. I hung up again. This wasn't a hunch anymore. This was a crime scene without tape. And still, I didn't confront her. No, not yet. I wasn't going to play the angry husband shouting at shadows. I wanted proof. The kind that doesn't stutter under pressure. I opened her laptop. Now, before you start judging, let me be clear. I didn't guess the password. She used our daughter's birthday. The same birthday she forgot last year. I clicked through a few folders. Nothing. Then I opened her email. The first name that jumped out wasn't some sketchy alias. It wasn't Jake the Homewrecker or Muscle Guy 87. Nope. It was Uncle Jake. 21 messages over the last month. Subject lines like, "Last night was perfect. Can't wait for our weekend. Did Ruby say anything?" That last one. That's the one that did it. I didn't open the messages. I didn't have to. The truth wasn't in the details. It was in the pattern, the frequency, the nicknames, the hidden simplicity of it all. And that's when the silence in me broke. But still, I said nothing. Because now, it wasn't about knowing. It was about watching them dig their own grave. Friday came like any other day. I made breakfast. Ruby chattered about a class pet. Ashley sauntered into the kitchen wearing one of his sweatshirts. Yep, Uncle Jake's, acting like everything was just fine. And I let her. Because sometimes, if you want someone to show their true face, all you need to do is give them enough mirror. But by Friday night, I didn't need mirrors anymore. I needed answers. And fate, that smug little matchmaker, handed me one with crayon edges and a stab to the ribs. It happened during Ruby's bedtime. She was coloring on the floor while I read her a book for the third time, some story about a talking raccoon with confidence issues. Then she reached for her backpack. "Oh," she said, rummaging. "I forgot. Miss Carla said to bring our family drawings to school next week." She pulled out a second picture. Another one. Same style. Crayon again. Same 3 characters. Mom, Uncle Jake, and that glowing red heart between them like some Valentine's Day had gone rogue. But this one had something different. Me. In the corner. Alone. Smaller. Frowning. A word was written under me in sloppy, uneven print. Gone. I blinked. "Ruby, honey, what does this one mean?" She looked up at me with the blank honesty only kids can carry. "It's what Mommy said. That you might be gone soon. But not in a scary way. Just like moving out. Like when Callie's parents got 2 houses. I couldn't breathe for a second. Like my chest was a room someone had sucked all the air out of. "Mommy said that?" I asked, slowly. She nodded. "Uncle Jake said too. But he said he'd still take me to the zoo sometimes." I stared at that paper. At the crooked smile on Uncle Jake's stick face. At the red heart floating smugly in the middle of the drawing. That's when I knew. It wasn't just an affair. It was a transition plan. They weren't sneaking around anymore. They were building a new life right under my nose. And I was the furniture they were planning to move out. Later that night, Ashley came into the living room, fresh out of the shower, wrapped in a towel like nothing had shifted. She caught a glimpse of Ruby's drawing on the coffee table. Her body froze for half a second. Just half. But that's all I needed. She tried to play it cool. "Ruby's been drawing a lot lately, huh?" I held her gaze. "Yeah, she's very observant." Ashley smiled, but her eyes flicked toward the stairs. "I'm gonna check on her." "Sure," I said. "While you're at it, maybe think about what version of this story you want her to grow up remembering." She paused. The smallest crack appeared in her expression. The first real one in months. Then she left the room. And me? I sat there with a drawing in my hand and a storm in my chest. The betrayal was no longer a suspicion. It had a name. Jake. It had a mouth. A smug one that probably whispered in her ear while my daughter played in the next room. And now it had a schedule. But what Jake and Ashley didn't know, what they never counted on, was that I wasn't gone yet. I was very much here. And I had one more role to play. By Saturday morning, I had stopped reacting. That might sound strange, but when the truth hits you hard enough, it stops being a blow and starts feeling like clarity. Cold, clear, surgical clarity. Ashley made eggs. I pretended to eat them. Ruby watched cartoons. I sat beside her on the couch, nodding along, laughing in the right spots. And somewhere behind my eyes, a machine started running. Not out of rage. Not even heartbreak anymore. This wasn't about saving the marriage. That ship had not only sailed, it had been sunk, looted by pirates, and turned into a cocktail bar for Ashley and Jake's new beginnings. This was about strategy. I started with her phone. No, I didn't hack it. I didn't need to. Because like most people who think they're smarter than they really are, Ashley got comfortable. I noticed the pattern. Every night, after dinner, she'd shower, get into her robe, and scroll her phone while watching some show she wasn't actually watching. Then, when she went to tuck in Ruby, she'd leave the phone on the coffee table. Unlocked. Call it trust, laziness, or arrogance. I called it an opportunity. That Saturday night, when she disappeared upstairs for story time, I picked it up. Quick, calm, surgical. Her messages with Jake weren't hidden. No secret folder. No fake name. Just Jake, bold and casual, like he had every right to live there. Jake, she didn't suspect anything last night. We're in the clear. Ashley, of course we are. He never asks questions. He's too proud for confrontation. You ever read a sentence that doesn't just sting, it studies you? That was it. They didn't think I was blind. They thought I was safe, a man who would rather sink than make waves. I took a screenshot. Then another. Then I found a folder labeled Gym Receipts, which had zero to do with working out unless the dumbbell was named Jake. Photos. Hotel confirmations. A playlist called Us, Love. That would have been hilarious if it wasn't tragic. I airdropped it all to my laptop. Dragged it into a folder labeled Insurance. Fitting. I didn't say a word when she came back downstairs. She didn't even notice her phone had moved an inch. She just sat down beside me, propped her feet on the ottoman, and sighed. We should go somewhere next month, she said. Maybe get away. Just you and me. I turned to her, blinked once, and said, yeah, maybe we should. She smiled. The same smile she wore when she said, I do. Only now it looked like it belonged to someone else entirely. Sunday morning, I went for a drive. I told Ashley I needed time to think about work stuff. She nodded, barely listening. I stopped at a coffee shop near downtown. One of those quiet little places with soft jazz and older baristas who don't ask questions. I opened my laptop and reviewed the collection. Then I opened a second tab and started digging. Jake Turner. Uncle Jake. I already knew he wasn't actually her brother. Just one of those family friends who shows up at weddings and hands out oversized hugs and wedding advice he never actually follows. Turns out Jake had a real name and a real digital footprint. And it was sloppy. 2 years ago, he'd filed for bankruptcy. A year before that, he'd been fired from his real estate job for ethical violations. Code for don't ask. We'll pretend it didn't happen. More digging. A LinkedIn profile he hadn't updated in 3 years. A Facebook page still public, full of mirror selfies and old motivational quotes like, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Well, Jake, looks like you took a shot. And now it was my turn. By Monday, the entire plan was in motion. I called my lawyer. We hadn't spoken in years, but I remembered him from when we drafted our wills. The man was built like a courtroom and twice as intimidating. David, I said, hypothetical situation for you. Say a man finds out his wife's been having an affair with someone she plans to move in, and he's got evidence. You recording this call? He said. Nope. Then I'll say this much, get everything in writing, don't tip your hand, and whatever you do, stay calm. I smiled. That's the easy part. Then I called Ruby's school. Set a meeting with the counselor. I wanted to make sure Ruby had someone to talk to when the storm hit. Because she was the only innocent one in this whole mess, and she deserved to be protected, especially from the two people who thought love was something you rearranged like furniture. Then I called Jake's most recent employer. Left a voicemail pretending to be a bank checking references. Just wondering if Mr. Turner is eligible for rehire, I said, chipper. We've had some concerns about dishonesty. I knew they'd call Jake. And I knew Jake would panic. That was the beginning of what I called the pressure test. Monday night came and went like a funeral no one cried at. Ashley was quiet. She'd sensed something had shifted. I can see it in the way she looked at me, studying me like a dog watching a doorknob turn. But she didn't say anything. She thought I was sulking. She had no idea I was building a stage. Because this wasn't going to end with shouting matches or passive-aggressive texts. It wasn't going to be a messy, she said, with everyone pointing fingers. No. When this curtain fell, there would be no doubt. Ashley and Jake were writing their future in crayon hearts in hotel rooms. But I was writing the ending. And mine would be in ink. Tuesday came with the kind of quiet tension you feel before a big storm. Not the kind with thunder, but the kind where trees bend and windows rattle before they finally break. The type of silence that makes the air taste metallic. Ashley was nervous. I could tell. She didn't hum while getting ready. She didn't ask if I wanted coffee. And she didn't kiss me goodbye, just gave me a soft "see you later" as she slipped out the door in a dress I hadn't seen since our 3rd anniversary. Funny thing about Ashley, she was at her most obvious when she thought she was being subtle. And lately, she'd been moving like a magician who forgot the audience is full of other magicians. Once she was gone, I went to the closet. Top shelf, inside a plain white shoebox that said "running shoes" on the side, which was a lie. I don't run unless I'm being chased. I pulled out a small black device the size of a car key. GPS tracker. Amazon, $39.99. 5-day battery. Waterproof. Discreet. I had installed it on her car last Friday after the second drawing from Ruby. That morning, the tracker pinged her at a motel on the east side of town. Not a work brunch. Not a Target run. Nope. Just 11:13 a.m. check-in, 1:42 p.m. checkout. Efficiency, I'll give her that. But today was for the bait. I grabbed my phone and sent a single text to her. Thinking about a weekend away. Just us. Been missing you. 5 minutes later, she replied. That sounds perfect, smiling face with hard eyes. Let's talk about it tonight. She was in. Hook, line, and red dress sinker. I forwarded the entire text thread to my lawyer. Time-stamped, emotionless. Evidence. Then, I opened a new file on my laptop. Titled it Timeline. I started writing it all out. The photo dates. The location pings. Screenshots. Copies of her texts with Jake. The 2 drawings from Ruby. Not to confront. To present. I was building a courtroom in a folder. That evening, I cooked dinner. Real dinner. Steak, mashed potatoes, asparagus. I even poured us wine. Set the table like it was Valentine's Day, and I still believed in fairy tales. Ashley came home late. Traffic, she said, smiling too wide. Smells amazing in here. I smiled back. Felt like cooking. She raised an eyebrow. This for something special? I shrugged. Nah, just thought we could talk. Her smile twitched. That's when I saw it. A shift. Just for a second. She was scared. But like a good actress, she recovered quickly. Sat down. Took a sip of wine. Started talking about work, about her boss, about a new intern who couldn't even open a spreadsheet. I nodded through it. Polite. Warm. The image of stability. Then, halfway through her steak, I leaned back in my chair. So, I said, what's going on with you and Jake? Her knife paused mid-cut. She looked up. Slowly. What? I said. I repeated, what's going on between you and Jake? She laughed. It was soft. Nervous. The kind of laugh that hoped to buy time. Logan, what are you talking about? Let's not do this, I said. Calm. Unshaken. I've got the texts. The emails. The hotel logs. Even GPS data. I know everything. Her eyes widened, but she wasn't stunned. Just exposed. Where did you? She started. I cut her off. Doesn't matter. I didn't come here to argue. I came here to offer you something. That caught her off guard. Offer me something? She repeated. I nodded. You're going to leave, I said. Not just emotionally, like you already have. Physically. You're going to pack a bag, tonight. And you're going to stay with Jake. You're going to tell Ruby that mommy needs a little time to think. And you're not going to tell her why. Ashley's mouth dropped open, but I kept going. If you do this, if you make this clean and quiet, I won't release what I have. Jake gets to keep his job. You get to save face with your family. And Ruby doesn't grow up thinking you tore her dad apart. And if I don't, she said, arms crossed now, full defense mode. Then I will forward everything, I said. To Jake's employer, your HR, your mother, and the school board. You think I don't know Jake's applying for a school coaching position? You think I won't make sure he never works with kids again? I let that sit. She blinked. Swallowed. You'd really do that? I'm not mad, I said. I'm focused. She stared at me for a long time. Then finally said, You're serious. I nodded. I'm done being blindsided. I'm not here to make threats. I'm here to lay down choices. Silence stretched across the table. And then, the softest whisper, What do I tell Ruby? I looked her dead in the eye. Tell her the truth. But not yours. Tell her mine. Tell her that Daddy knew how to love her even when everything else fell apart. Ashley stood slowly. Left her plate half full. Didn't speak another word. She walked upstairs. 10 minutes later, I heard the zipper of her suitcase. At 9:42 p.m., the front door closed quietly behind her. And for the first time in weeks, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. I looked over at the fridge. The drawing was still there. 3 people. 1 heart. And Dad, in the corner. Gone. Not anymore. It was 10:12 p.m. when the doorbell rang. I knew it was him. Jake Turner didn't strike me as the kind of guy to text ahead. The man thought confidence meant showing up uninvited and letting his cologne announce his arrival 5 seconds before he walked in. I opened the door slowly, giving him the full frame. Me, in a button-down, sleeves rolled up, wine glass still in hand, calm as ever. Jake, on the other hand, looked like a man who just realized the tide was pulling him out to sea. Ashley called me, he said, stepping in without waiting. What's going on, man? Man. That word again. Like we were equals. Teammates. You don't call the husband of the woman you've been sneaking around with man, unless you're either very stupid or very brave. Jake, lucky for me, was the first. I closed the door behind him. Drink? He blinked. No, thanks. Suit yourself. I motioned toward the living room, where everything had been perfectly curated to look casual. Dim lights, a few framed family photos, Ashley's phone on the table. Jake stepped in like he owned the place. Then again, I guess in his head, he kind of did. The guy had probably imagined this moment dozens of times. Show up. Flash a grin. Say something about clearing the air. Maybe try to play it cool man-to-man. He didn't know the air had already been cleared, and he was standing in the middle of the vacuum. So, I said, sitting down and crossing one leg over the other. You're seeing my wife. Jake rubbed the back of his neck. Look, I know how this looks. Do you? I asked, cutting in. Because to me, it looks like you were circling my family like a vulture. Whispering into my kid's ear, holding hands with Ashley behind my back. Telling her I'd never leave because I'm too safe. Jake's mouth dropped a bit. Yeah, I had read the texts. Listen, he started. Ashley said things weren't working between you two. She told me you'd grown apart. That you were more like roommates than a couple. I let out a short breath, a half laugh, half sigh. Roommates, I repeated. You know what roommates don't do, Jake? They don't raise a child together. They don't build a house from scratch, or take turns doing midnight feedings while the other one sleeps, or split up holidays with in-laws. They don't sacrifice years of their life so the other person can chase a career without worrying about the groceries or the rent. Jake looked like he was about to deliver some sort of apology, one of those fake deep ones that begin with, I didn't mean to hurt anyone. But I raised a finger and shut him up before he could drop the cliché. You didn't just insert yourself into my marriage, I said. You inserted yourself into my daughter's life. As Uncle Jake. You drew her pictures, bought her books, promised her zoo trips. Jake had the decency to look ashamed, but only barely. She needs stability, he mumbled. Stability. I laughed for real now, cold and hard. You've had 3 jobs in 5 years, filed for bankruptcy, and your idea of responsibility is keeping a toothbrush in the glove compartment of your car. You're not a man, Jake. You're a vacancy sign in a leather jacket. Jake bristled. You think you're better than me? No, I said, leaning in. I know I am. Not because I'm richer. Not because I'm smarter. But because I don't cut lines and pretend I earned the ride. He stood up. Look, I didn't come here to be insulted. No, you came here to see if I'd blow up, I replied, still seated. You came to see if I'd get angry enough to throw something, give you a black eye, maybe call the cops and make it messy. Jake hesitated. I smiled. But you're not getting that. What you're getting is a very clear message. I own the story now. Not you. Not Ashley. He squinted. What does that mean? It means I've already filed for custody of Ruby. It means I have evidence, dates, screenshots, the whole digital paper trail. And it means I know exactly what your coaching interview next month would think if someone sent them a little folder labeled Uncle Jake's Family Values. Jake's skin paled a little. I stood up now, calmly setting my glass on the table. You're going to disappear, Jake. Not just from this house, but from Ruby's life. No messages. No drop-ins. No trying to play the cool friend card. If you care about Ashley at all, you'll understand this is the best deal she's ever going to get. And if I don't? He asked, mouth tight. I walked to the drawer, pulled out a printed photo of Ruby's second drawing, the one with Mommy, Uncle Jake, the red heart, and Dad labeled gone. I mail this, I said, to every parent at Ruby's school. With a simple note. This is how my daughter explained her mother's affair. Just so you're aware who your kids are around. Jake stared at me. You wouldn't, he whispered. I would, I said. Because I'm done being the quiet husband in the corner of the drawing. Silence. Then Jake backed away slowly, his hands up. Fine. Fine. You win. I shook my head. No, Jake. I endured. And now I'm just resetting the balance. He slipped out the door, muttering something I didn't catch. Probably for the best. After he left, I stood by the window for a long time, just breathing. Outside, the night was calm. Stars overhead. The hum of streetlights. The soft rustle of leaves in the breeze. For the first time in months, the house felt still. Not heavy. Not hostile. Just still. And on the fridge behind me? The drawing was gone. I had taken it down. Because I didn't need a child's crayon prophecy anymore. I had written my own ending. Jake didn't come back. I don't know where he went, and I didn't care enough to check. But Ashley, she lingered. She texted, called, left voicemails that started defensive, turned desperate, then finally quiet. The sound of someone who thought they'd pulled the winning hand and just realized they'd been playing old maid the whole time. The thing is, I didn't hate her. I know, right? After everything, after the lies, the deception, the way she used our daughter like camouflage, you'd think I'd be seething. But hate takes energy. And by that point, I was fresh out. What I had left was purpose. I met with the family lawyer again, this time armed with the full portfolio. Messages, photos, Ruby's drawings, statements from the school counselor, and a notarized log of Ashley's overnights, thanks to the GPS tracker. My request was simple, full legal custody of Ruby. No joint agreements. No weekends. No shared anything. Ashley didn't contest. I think a part of her thought she'd eventually win us back. But Ruby was never a prize to be negotiated. She was the reason I hadn't burned the house down when I first found out. She was the reason I chose precision over passion. And she was the reason I was going to do this clean. The court agreed. Custody was granted. Ashley was allowed supervised visits, but only if Ruby wanted them. The first time Ashley showed up, Ruby didn't come down from her room. Ashley cried on the porch. I didn't comfort her. She made her choice. Ruby made hers. And I? I moved forward. Weeks passed. Then months. We found our rhythm, Ruby and I. Mornings were filled with scrambled eggs and cartoons. Evenings were stories, homework, and slow, steady healing. One Saturday afternoon, Ruby came downstairs with something behind her back. "Daddy?" she said. "Yeah, sweetheart." She held out a drawing. Just like the others. 3 figures. One tall, with a tie. Me. One small, holding a balloon. Ruby. And the third? A golden retriever. I hadn't bought it yet, but I'd been thinking about it. "What's this?" I asked. "Our family," she said proudly. "You, me, and someone happy." I hugged her. I didn't cry. Not in front of her. That night, after she fell asleep, I wrote Ashley a letter. Not because I needed to. Not for closure. But because I knew the day would come when Ruby would ask why things happened the way they did. And I wanted something honest I could hand her. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't emotional. It just said, "You love the idea of being loved. But love is earned through work, not fantasy." You looked at Jake and saw freedom. You looked at me and saw responsibility. What you didn't see is that freedom without responsibility is just selfishness. And now, you're free. Completely. I signed it. Didn't mail it. I placed it in a folder labeled "Later," in a safe Ruby won't touch until she's old enough to read between the lines. People always ask, "Did you get revenge?" Let's be clear. Revenge isn't slashing tires or public shaming. Revenge is patience. It's playing the long game. It's walking past the wreckage someone else made and leaving them in it while you build something better, just out of their reach. A few months after the custody hearing, I found out Jake lost his shot at that school job. A parent on the hiring board had received an anonymous packet of messages, drawings, and quotes. Nothing slanderous. Nothing illegal. Just truth. Jake faded into whatever version of exile guys like him retreat to when attention stops paying out. Ashley, I heard, tried to move cities. Start over. But reputations don't always travel light. Especially when your own daughter writes, "Daddy makes me feel safe" on a Mother's Day card at school. Me? I kept living. Quiet. Steady. One morning, Ruby asked me, "Do you think Mommy will ever be nice again?" I paused. Thought about it. "I think Mommy is figuring things out," I said. Ruby nodded. "I hope she learns fast." She missed pancakes this morning. A year later, Ruby brought home a school project. Family tree, it said at the top. Crayons again. This time, more practiced. Cleaner lines. Color inside the edges. There was me, right at the base of the trunk. Her, just above. And where a second parent might have been. Ruby had drawn a hand holding hers. Not a face. Not a name. Just a hand. "Who's this?" I asked. She looked up. All innocence and wisdom rolled into one. That's for whoever's next, she said. But only if they make you laugh. I smiled. That's a good rule. And then I took a picture of the drawing and framed it. Not to hang on the fridge, but to remind myself I hadn't been erased. I'd just been redrawn. Better. Stronger. Still here.